let's talk about lighting.
We have pretty much given up on having a lantern at camp. Either it be the propane kind or the battery ones, because they're just so big and bulky, the batteries die whenever you need it. Our primary source of light has been headlamps. And this was with backpacking, car camping, hiking, even taking out the trash at home. When OuTask reached out to us to see if we wanted to review their telescoping lantern, we were like, did somebody actually make a lantern we would want to use? If you're curious how we handle free products for review like this, go check out this link on our website. You have found Explore Trek Adventure with Kelly and Greg. We cover everything camping from backpacking to adventure vans. Here's everything that you get in the box. Of course, you get your lantern, you have a hand strap. This is actually Dyneema, so they did not skimp on some of these materials. These are 3 stakes and it's titanium. This is actually with stakes that you get with your like ultralight backpacking. You have your charge cable, which has the A and C. And then of course, reflective stickers. I think one of the most surprising and actually really interesting things about this lantern is it actually works as a charger. It is a 12,000 milliamps. This is like bigger than our brick that we actually use when we go backpacking. We can do a USB-C or USB-A and charge like our phones or I don't know, whatever we need. This uses a USB-C to charge it, and they say it takes about 5 hours, which is a little bit surprising since this whole big battery box actually charges within an hour. With that being said, what we've used of this and how they have it configured, this light actually lasts a long time.
Before we get into the gory details of the light itself, I want to show you that it can also be a backpack street lamp. I love it. Okay, let's look at the light itself. On the top, you'll notice that this thing is actually metal, where the rest of it is plastic. We have the top here, and if you pull it up, this is where it extends out, and it goes out that far. And here's part of the magic. It does that. I wouldn't really consider this like an area light. I'd consider this more of a task light because it kind of lights up the area for a person. It also has a cool feature that this, you can see the light LEDs under there, but this will rotate over and then you can bring it down, and this can also be a handheld flashlight. It's fairly straightforward to use. You hit the button once, you can see your battery level. If you hold it down, it'll turn on the light, which there you can see our lights turned on. It defaults to a bright white light. If you click it twice, it'll go to a kind of an amber light, which I actually really like. And if you click it double again, it goes to the strobe. And if you turn it off, and when you turn it back on, it defaults to the very first one again. Once the light is on, if you give it a single press, it'll go into a higher brightness, and it has 3 levels of brightness, and then it cycles back to the low. Everybody likes to chase lumens, and you can have the brightest light as possible. That's super awesome. But what we found is 300 to 400 is kind of like the magic. I think this one is 350. This one's 330. It's like the perfect amount of light for like one person. This is brighter, but it also has that flood effect. On low, it's 40 lumens, and you can run this thing for 65 hours, which is an insanely long time. On medium, it's 250 lumens. That'll run for 17 hours. And on high, it's 500 lumens. You'll get 6.5 hours. You have another little Dyneema strap here that you can attach your cordage to. And this is the button that you press to open up the little feet that come down. And if you notice here that there's some holes, and this is where you would, if you had it on the ground, this is where you would put your stakes if you wanted to stake it down. Let me come show you an extra feature that they added, which I actually really like, is these feet are magnetic, so you can stick it to things. One thing with typical lanterns is they usually just radiate light in every single direction. I remember camping as a kid and trying to go to sleep. Of course, they'd put us to sleep early, but then they'd have these like 8 million lumen lanterns, these white gas lanterns that would just blast light everywhere. I thought this was kind of gimmicky at first, but it actually is a really cool feature because you can actually specifically light areas. And so like everybody over there is not going to get blasted by your light. In a campground scenario, this is especially good. People don't like to listen to your music. They also don't like to look at your lights. Before it gets dark, let's actually set this up so you can actually see what it looks like. I also want to show you that this is a campfire. They finally lifted the burn bans. So if we come down to my chair here, if you wanted it just at like my level, you could do it like this. Say you're eating dinner or reading a book, hanging out, totally light up this area.
Nice thing about this is that you don't actually have to have it at the extended length. You could have it down low, and like it could almost be like a little safety light for you.
This is extended fully, so that's as tall as it's gonna get, which actually is like pretty much eye level with me.
We'll get this fire going. Actually, Greg will get it going. And then once it's dark, we'll show you how well this performs.
It's twilight. We have a roaring fire, but you can see the light. We stuck it between our two chairs. It's providing a nice ambiance.
If we needed to, we could just push it down a little bit.
Kelly was actually charging her phone there earlier. So I like that dual purpose.
I'm gonna flip it towards Greg's chair. This is the lowest setting. And let's see, medium and bright. So it's pretty bright. I mean, it puts off a lot of light if I needed to see something.
Put it like halfway down.
There's.
I actually like that, actually, by the campfire. It's actually kind of nice because you can actually see around people. I like the light it gives when the head is pointed down, but if I flip it all the way so it's pointed up, it's not like in a super good place because it's low enough where it's really shining me right in the face, and then it's lighting up part of the trees, but it's really not doing anything when we're out here. This would be super good though if you're in a car or if you're in a tent, because then it would bounce off the top of the tent. But when you're outside, things down or out is kind of going to be where you're going to want it. There you go. You can light up our area so we don't get attacked by cougars. All right, this is flashlight mode. This is at the lowest level. Not the best flashlight at the lowest level. Let's bump it up to the medium. That's much better. And bump it up to high. Yeah, totally works as flashlight. And if you double tap, it gives it to the amber color. This would work really well if you have to use the restroom at night. You can use the flashlight feature, and then you hit the button on the bottom, you flip out your legs, and you can then put it on the ground, and you could tilt the light whichever way you needed. You could go into the woods, use the restroom. Now this is where I think this light really excels. So let's take, for instance, we were off-roading in the dark, which I hope we never actually do, and say we got a flat or something happened to the van. We could set this light out like this. We kind of redirect it towards the van. Then we can be out here doing whatever work we needed to do on the van. We don't have to worry about the light. And also say we got to camp really late. We needed to cook something. We could stick that light right there and say we were going to cook right here. We can do all our whatever we needed to do. So that's actually a really cool feature. And it sticks actually really well. Just keep in mind it won't stick to aluminum, because we thought like, oh, this would be really cool if we could stick it on the back of our van on our monster box or our ladder, but won't stick to aluminum. Is inside the van here. We come in and say Kelly is sleeping back there. I actually have set this light like this, and then I shine it forward, and when I'm here working or doing on something on the computer or the iPad, I can totally do that, and there's zero light going back there, which is actually really nice. That worked for the tent or in a car. For hanging out by the campfire, we found that the mode number 1, the low mode, it doesn't put out enough light. But number 2, got attacked by the fire. But the mode number 2, like the medium brightness, that's what this is right now. We really like. And number 3, it doubles the brightness, but it doesn't really add enough to where it makes a lot of sense. And this mode, I think, will give us like 17 hours, a lot of runtime. We're gonna burn down the rest of this fire. We'll give you our final recap of what we think about this light in the morning. When it comes to price, we definitely think this is a little on the high end side, although I do have a headlamp that's pretty equivalent to this. Before I give you my final thoughts, I want to show you something. Last night around the campfire, when I was picking this up, I was noticing that for whatever reason, the dirt around here was sticking to the magnets on here. And then when I went to close it, it was kind of gumming up the works, and it was getting a little bit crunchy. So if you're in an area that has a lot of metal in the dirt, for whatever reason this area is, just make sure you clean it off really well before you close it up. Otherwise you end up getting a bunch of dirt in the mechanism and it doesn't want to open and close as smoothly. Now let's get to the final thoughts. Who should own something like this? And I think it's good for, honestly, any good campers. It's gonna be terrible for backpacking. You're not gonna wanna use it for that. But anything where weight's not an issue. Overlanders are gonna find it really helpful. I think it's very cool for that task-specific lighting. Like we mentioned, like having to change a tire at night or having to cook food at night, super helpful. We also really liked it around the campfire. So it has a lot of cool uses. One last thing I forgot to mention is I do like the size of this. It's not super huge and it's easy to store in the van. Now, who might want to skip out on this? And I think if you're just getting into camping and you're kind of looking at your lighting options, this might not be the best choice. I think you should probably go with just a straight old headlamp. That way you can do some backpacking or car camping.
My final thoughts on this lantern. I actually was pleasantly surprised. I really like it. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but you know, just sitting around camp, who cares how much it weighs? The telescoping angle, being able to have it down low so it's not interfering with anybody's eyesight. I think this would actually be a really good gift for maybe those starting out campers, or maybe the camper that has everything and maybe they just don't have a telescoping lantern yet. Our wish lists for their next version, maybe a dedicated SOS button. That way you don't have to cycle through it. And then also it would be nice if it could remember the last setting it had when you turn it back on. Tell us what you think about this lantern. You can go watch this video next. You can find us at exploretrekadventure.com and we'll see you next time.